Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. This is Sue, and this is Talk Cosmos. We are looking at the most eventful dynamic. It's the eclipse, the second eclipse of the first season, the solar eclipse. Just happened yesterday. We don't know when it really does happen because the energy is a surge that continues from the lunar and extends far beyond. So we're in the middle of it. We're in the beginning of it. We're doing it. And we have a great team today to give some insights how that might have deeper meaning in your life, our lives, connecting through metaphysical terms with the astrology. Always the cycle of the sky, the imprint of the moment that seeps into our consciousness. So we are now ready for archetypal symbols.
Synthesizing the new moon consciousness through archetypal Sabian symbols, numerology, lunar mansions, tarot, and astrology, all together illuminating a new moon vision story. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
And I'm Justin Crocodelsey, an archetypal Jyotish astrologer, yoga and meditation teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology, and I specialize in predictive, electional, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Hi, Justin. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Sue. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it is. Moving into this light that wanted to take a vacation, kind of rebrief and debriefing us all at the same time, huh? So let's see what it has to say. It is always the archetypal energy that is a pattern of consciousness, behavior that takes in the multitudes from the distant past, wherever it might begin, which we have no measurement for, into the present that's always evolving. So this is what we're looking at. It's a solar eclipse that happened to be on the 29th of March, and it should be daylight savings time. Thank you, with all my details. I missed that one. It's not standard, it's daylight time. It's cardinal, it's moving, it's fire, it's instinctive. It rules Mars, and Mars is paramount in our life, and particularly in this chart. Any comments quick about this here? Liz,
No,
Justin?
it's just action. I can feel all the movement.
Yes.
It's that time of year. We're at a very important time with the Aries, and Aries represents taking action and motivation and forward movement. So
it truly is, and it's always becoming. I think that's what I love about Aries. They are willing to stand up again and go ahead in anywhere it is in your chart. I happen to have North Node there. and you redefine, you become, you re-identify your world as you experience going forward. So it's all of that. And there is some shadow, you know, there's always more to learn. I love what you added, in mouth syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there.
Because sometimes
This can happen.
You can't take it back.
Oh, it is. No, so you got to like learn to be improvise, right? Just go, or like the tail, eat it. So we have numerology, and what's fascinating always with these cycles is just to see the dynamics, how it works with many different perceptives or connections. And this happens to be with a new moon, which a solar eclipse is. And it's been it's been months, and it always is that way, where there's months where it stays in 1 degree. The minutes alter, but it's been 9 degrees, and this is the last of the 9 degrees since November. So that was a Scorpio. Actually, it went from the last eclipse to this eclipse. And so we're finishing up things. It's like a constant house cleaning job. And but besides the sun and moon at 9 degrees, Vesta, the hearth that we protect, that flame, that eternal flame, adds up to 9 too. It's at 18 Scorpio. Liz and Justin?
Yeah, it's like, you know, finishing up things so you can make room for the new. And so we've had a repeat for several months to, you know, tie up loose ends to begin to move on and everything. So that's really exciting that, you know, next month, I think it's at 7 degrees, if I remember correct. So it's going to shift, but it's, you know, giving us a lot of time to complete and, you know, maybe take an evaluation of, do I want to continue with this, or is it time for change?
And we will see that's really part of the whole message, what with the retrogrades of all the personal planets are either going through their path, shadow paths for the third time, like Mars, or else they are retrograde. Yeah. Justin, no?
No, I think Liz covered it well.
I think we're ready for it too. After 4 or 6 months, it's like, oh, let's get on with the program, right? So we'll go next. Here we are, the trumpeter, the trumpeter emperor. That was a mess of the mouth, but it's a 4th trump card, major arcana, corresponds to Aries, leadership.
Yes, the Emperor card, you know, it's like somebody taking charge to make the best decision for everybody concerned, because we can't make everybody happy all the time, but, you know, sometimes we just have to make a choice or a decision to for the best of the group or the whole. Justin, you want to add anything?
No, I think you got that covered, Liz.
And in its worst case, of course, the antithesis of that, which happens to be, as it says in the shadow, excessive control, tyranny, rigidity, or abuse of power. Always things to realize it as we are moving forward. How does it react and respond? But still, that leadership, that courage, beautiful. I'm not sure if it's courage or not with the tarot card. So we now are at the Vedic Yogish lunar mansions, or better yet, it's in the chakras. But it's the Vedic with Justin.
Yeah, so basically the lunar mansions encompass these stories or myths about the stars and the section of the sky that the moon is in at the time. And these go all the way back to the beginning of Jyotish astrology, back close to 2000 BCE. So in the next slide, the lunar mansion for this particular moon and sun that are going to be in is Uttara Bhadrapada in the 4th pada. And the 4th pada, of course, is ruled by water. And it's a Scorpio. The Navamsa on this is Scorpio energetically, this moon a little bit. And the ruling planet is Saturn. The ruling deity is Ahir which is the god of fertility. And the symbol is a snake in water. And this deity is actually a serpent deity, the serpent of the sea. And so the basis above is the raining of clouds, and the basis below is the growth of plants. And really what we're talking about here is this is what's called the warrior star. And so it's a very much more of a spiritual warrior. It's a darker energy. This is somewhat connected to the occult, but it can also be empathetic, and also has a relationship to Kundalini energy. So this gives you a little snapshot of what some energies are going to be like coming in with this solar eclipse, this new moon.
Always very strong. It is particularly appropriate, I'm thinking, with the idea of an eclipse, like you say, where we're in a transformational state. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. The warrior star, very much. Well, here we are for a synopsis that I introduce and others will chime in with, that mythology adds into this whole scheme, which began as a primary story. And we all carry our myths today with what we believe to be part of our heritage. And in the archetypals for Aries, there is distinctly Aries and there is Mars. And Mars, so I'm not going to cover all this. We hardly have no time. But just to bring up that factor, because Aries by itself can be the golden fleece, and there's whole stories about the ram. With Mars, to remember that is the Roman name, that the Greek name was Eris, which, to spell that out, because there's also his sister, as they call it, Aries, but Ares. And the Greeks and Romans distinctly saw Mars very different. And that's when, and the Romans took all the Greek mythology and they just transformed the names to their own, but they also changed some of the identity. And this one is most particular. So in looking, there's many, many stories with Mars. He was a divine warrior. He was the god of war, but the divine warrior, the god of, and the guardian of agriculture, because fertility is extremely important with Mars. He is described as a lover. His great lover was Aphrodite, Venus. And that's really my story that I will stop with, I think. And that is because look at Earth. I've always thought we're right smack dab between these two personal planets. And what could be almost more personal? Well, we have the moon and we have Mercury, of course, that have their own tango going. But we have Venus and Mars. And when they mated, which they did frequently because they have this great attraction, which we also see in charts, one of their children was Harmonia or Concordia. And there's different ways of speaking of it, which isn't that great when we take what we choose to go forward with what we love, and its best invention or its best manifestation is a harmonious contribution to support. Now, when he went on his war path, whatever you want to say, he had a spear for courage as a symbol, his shield for power, protecting the home front. And his chariot was driven by fear and dread. So no mistake, war is not a fun experience. And there was many other energies that accompanied him, and many other children that were on the minus side of Harmonia. Virtue is one that accompanied Mars. So I think bottom line is when you look at this multi-dimensional power structure, because when we invoke power, a change, which Mars does. I mean, Scorpio, for instance, has now got Pluto, but still Mars is one of the co-rulers, and both of them emote change. By the very structure of going out, something gets shifted. So it's not an easy state, and it encompasses, and it is in change dynamics that we move into. I see here a note that is just to remind that in ancient times, and this is what astrology takes, March is the first of the year, and that's taken his name from Roman mythology. So we call that the World Astrology Day, which begins it. And of course, the Tarot leads it in the nakshatra, the warrior star. It's like we're moving on. We're moving in.
Yes, moving forward, that's for sure. Letting
Just
go of what's not needed.
okay. So this is the Ram constellation. Is very dim, difficult to see. Best times is right around this winter solstice, either November through January. And there's times here, usually in the evening. So let's go on with the Sabian symbols. And those were, maybe I should go back. We're going to do 3. We're going to do the degree itself, and then the one prior that's leading up, and the one after where it's going as a story. And Elsie Wheeler was a spiritualist medium in 1925, created these metaphor imagery that with the astrologer Mark Edmund Jones. Liz?
So
I'm tired of my voice. I need input. Somebody.
The ascendant in this chart for Washington, D.C. is 7 degrees Aries. The midheaven is 4 degrees Capricorn. And the sun and moon are at 9 degrees Aries. So we'll be looking at those degrees and the degree before and after each of those. I don't know if you wanted me to say anything more, but
no,
that's
what
okay.
I have. Justin, did you? You know,
No, I'm just ready to jump into the Sabians.
What struck me is, look at that. This is for the United States, of course. Liz was just presenting. It's at 6:58 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Washington, D.C. And the ascendant at 7 degrees Mars and the sun and moon at 9 both meet at 8 degrees, which repeats itself. So all the way from 6 to 10 Aries, we have a pretty strong story pattern, visual board or pattern board, something. Okay, I'll start with the past. Where it's all beginning, you might say, in this epic is 6 degrees Aries, a square with one of its side brightly illumined. They say illumined. I could say illuminated, but illumined. It's the emotional desire for concrete and stabilized existence as a person, as an individual. And this is a beginning stage, so it's really a one-sided urge for stability and inner stability, and it suggests through reading that it isn't necessarily, there is a potential enemy involved. In other words, it's me against them, but you're putting it together. I hope I'm right about that. Go ahead.
And then
Liz.
the degree of the ascendant is Aries 7. A man succeeds in expressing himself simultaneously in 2 realms. The keynote is the first realization of a dual nature of man and the possibilities it implies. And the key word is living 2 separate lives.
And then what we're moving towards here, Aries 8 degrees, the Sabian symbol is a large woman's hat with streamers blown by an east wind. The keynote here is protection and spiritual guidance in the development of consciousness. And so what we're talking about here, actually, this is a little bit different than I think what some aspects of what Dame Rudyard talked about, but it's about a sensitivity, a person that's sensitive to emotional energies that are coming in.
Really powerful, because that one is going to be the one that repeats for the actual moon, for this eclipse. And I'm thinking too, as I read 6, that if we could look at, like, that's where energies came from. It was like, me, got to get it together. But here they're realizing the dimensions and the spiritual dimension. It's very good. Liz, you want to start?
Sure. For the degree leading up for the midheaven is Capricorn 3. A human soul in its eagerness for new experiences seeks embodiment. And the keynote is a powerful yearning for whatever will increase the scope and depth of one's contacts with other living beings. And the key word is a strong desire to prove oneself.
So at the actual degree, present degree for the Sabian is a group of, which is 4 Capricorn, a group of people outfitting a large canoe at the start of a journey by water. So the keynote idea is the ability to use natural resources and basic skills in order to achieve a group purpose. Accentuating this concept of a group activity, which I added in the notes that Rujar put down, implies a need for change.
And then Capricorn 5 degrees, Indians on the warpath. While some men row a well-filled canoe, others in it perform a war dance. Again, this is a little bit different than what Dame Rudyard had put. The key word here is aggressiveness and motivating growth potential as we move forward with social groups.
I thought, though, these all come from Mindfire. I don't know why they're a little different. I took them right out of the book.
Okay.
Justin, I didn't adjust. I didn't change anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it's like maybe there's two different ones, that large. And for folks, what we're talking about is that you can go online and go Mindfire. It's called. It's a mandala. It's his great book that he has, and it's all online. And it goes from 1 to 30. Because I round off of Pisces, so it's one of Aries.
It's the same one. It's just worded a little bit different. So,
hard to know, but that's how it is online. Yeah.
Okay.
Okie doke. We will now see what this is for worldwide. It's going to be 9 degrees Aries for the eclipse. So we're doing 8, 9, 10 Aries. Go ahead, Liz.
Okay, so leading up, and we talked about this one for the Senate, Aries 8, a large woman's hat with streamers blown by an east wind. And the keynote is protection and spiritual guidance. And then the key word is protective form and the sensitivity to spiritual energies.
What's in black is actual words, and some of the little extra ones are just because it embellishes exactly words that he had in that context. But that's the only place I added, kind of chose a few descriptive ideas that he wrote about that might help us or help people looking at these slides later to understand. So present, 9 degrees Aries, a crystal gazer, the development of inner realization of organic wholeness. And he suggested, in his words, crystal symbolizes wholeness where images take form. So in other words, the key word is concentrated attention.
And then the Aries 10 is a teacher gives new symbolic forms to traditional images. And the key word here is abstraction.
Okay. Yeah, starting a new cycle of experience. Reviewing these just as far as keywords, which is one way to kind of put a story together. What shall I do? I'll read one, Liz, you read the next, and then Justin.
Well, I think what we should do is put the midheaven and the sun moon all together because it's, going from one to the next. So it's telling a story. It's like it's one-sided, but there's a need or a want for stability. Because living two separate ways or the polarity of people's desires, perhaps. But I would say, pay attention to what information you might be getting intuitively or things that you hear, and really use the attention in a focused manner, because it's like if you pay attention and observe, then things might seem abstract, but they're probably not abstract because it being told in different ways, it like distracts you in a way.
Good.
Right. And I think, you said it right, Sue, in the beginning there, that one where it's about a one-sided urge for inner stability can be a very tension-filled thing of me against everybody else. And so I do think that, that's the sin, how we're moving forward, to be paying attention to how we're of ourselves and how we're moving forward into things, and how sensitive we are. But then also that midheaven looks as we're trying to accomplish something at this particular period of time, with the midheaven being our ultimate goal.
And I like the idea that it brings up for itself the group activity, and essentially the whole new moon eclipse itself is asking us to incorporate spirit. Yes. But
Well, and I would say that group activity, try to do it all by yourself, because there's other people that probably have similar beliefs or similar desires. And to do it as a group, it's more powerful, and you won't spread yourself too thin.
Right.
Yeah, I think we can all think of experiences right now off the bat that relate to that. Well, let's see. I guess I haven't been looking at the clock, but usually we take a break, and we have a lot that we'd love to talk about in the second half, and I'm hoping just for us to expound and talk about it, not just from what we see, but what we know. So we will be back. It's Archetypal Symbols. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We're currently in the period of Aries. By leaving a cycle based upon completion, the energy of Aries sparks initiation, creating action to separate into a new cycle of life. It's a fire sign, which means it will involve great emotion. And because separation may create resistance, it also takes great courage to break away to new ways of becoming.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, April 6th, it's Shelter, Rescue, Sanctuary, and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We'll check in with Now.Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, and talk with Merritt and Beth Clifton from animals24-7.org. Plus, we'll find out about all the upcoming classes and events at the Ananda Institute for Living Yoga. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
An alternative to everything else on your radio dial. Alternative Talk 1150.
We are back. Archetypal Symbols, new moon, eclipse consciousness. We're renewing intentions. We'll talk about that too. It's a little different with eclipses. We have Liz Muschett, alightpath.com. We have Justin Crockett-Elsie, and you can find him on YouTube at Astrological Yogi, myself, Sue Minahan, Talk Cosmos. Liz, this is always at the half hour. We give a little briefing who our personnel are and what's up with their life. Liz has her podcast. She does several with Justin, and she has Astrology Star Sisters, which is really powerful, and she's growing it dynamically. You can learn everything from Chinese astrology about Tarot and the decans. We are beginning one with dwarfs. It's going to get on very shortly, so watch for that. Fixed stars and Uranian, Venus. It's like really loaded. Any other comment? I'm trying to get right through. I look forward to
people coming and visiting my channel. I look forward to having you join me.
That's right. And we have Justin. Justin is our archetypal Yodish astrologer, author. He's a consultant. We're all three consultants. And you can really get a hold of him at, if you email justin.elsie, it has that dot. You have to be particular about that, at Gmail. And then he's at YouTube with Astrological Yogi.
Yep.
Okay. And does Zoom on calls. Is that right? Zoom on calls? Yeah. Oh, goody. And myself, here I am with Liz coming up. We're going to do one on the seed point of renewal. That is the name of the game for today. Spring is happening. But it's more than spring. It's a deeper backdrop. You'll find out about it. So in the back, we had spring equinox, another beautiful idea of how to look at this spring equinox through vibrational astrology that has vibrational themes. So I urge you to look at that too. It was just last week. And just prior to that, we had the two eclipses that we're right in the midst of with Astrojam. It was a very special occasion where everybody was a planet. It's spontaneous. It's another whole realm of understanding these dynamics happening. Next week, we'll look at the whole moon cycle, all 4 patterns, to bring up 2 events. One of our members, Marie O'Neill, has a special that she's giving a break on right now for a month till the end of the month. And it's a 2-day event. It's online, a journey to inner healing, caring for the soul. So you can go to virtual retreat, caring for the soul, or look at this Eventbrite. And then also for those people that are curious about vibrational astrology, David Cochran started this. And actually it has people before, but he really devised the techniques. It's in depth, but you can learn basics about it. And Linda Berry is having a first workshop, not a workshop, it's a conference. It'll be on Labor Day weekend. It's pretty reasonable. There's going to be 2 tracks, one for beginners, so you can just get the ideas of what this is about, and then more advanced. So check into that, fractalcosmos.org. We'll keep repeating it. Thanks. Now, back to the sun happening. Mars is the really primary energy happening, I would say. He's out of bounds still all the way till April 12th.
7th,
thank you. Okay. Generally, I better add what's a solar eclipse. And I thought I put something on here, but I didn't see it. Okay. Oh, here it is down there. It's when the moon rather, blocks the sun light. We won't see it where we are. It'll be on the other side of the globe. The energy is still happening. Liz and Justin, now I know, Liz, you had real thoughts about, hold off, folks, about intentions. And then you wondered what Justin thought. So we're inviting Justin too. Go ahead. Lead off, please.
Yeah, for eclipses and on the new moon, usually on a new moon, we do intentions or we put our wishes out there or desires. But on eclipses, I recommend to not to do that because they're a wild card. And Justin and I talked earlier today, I think it was today, maybe it was yesterday, about Valens said it, and he's one of our forefathers in astrology, to not be trying to manifest or do astrological magic on a solar eclipse because you don't know what's going to happen. So it's like this month, I would just say that skip your intentions for this month. What about you, Justin?
Yeah, so that Vedas Valens, who was a 2nd century Hellenistic astrologer, actually said, don't plant, don't marry, don't do anything when the moon is conjunct the nodes or opposite the nodes, of course, which would be eclipses. And of course, this is the way traditional astrology looks at eclipses. And also Jyotish does as well. Jyotish does as well that, that those eclipses times are a time to not move, on the new moon so quickly because there is a dark aspect to it. And just a side note, in Native Americans' spirituality, Native Americans actually stay indoors during solar eclipses. It's a cultural thing that they stay indoors during eclipses. So
I did once myself. I'm glad to know I wasn't totally out of it. But I will say that I started Talk Cosmos on eclipses. I actually signed my contracts to begin it and everything else. And I worried about it. So I'm not refuting what you both say, but it hasn't always, it's been an enormous growth eclipse, in many ways. And so I think for myself, I wonder if one couldn't vow, in their own prayer sense, to have better insights, to have better understandings, just a very general intention of focus, of awareness, to work with whatever it is, not to put form to it, but just to be compatible. That would be, I don't, is that still considered a no in modern days?
I wouldn't do that, but we have freedom of choice, so we all get to make our own choices.
Well, I mean,
what our beliefs
experience
are. Yeah.
But it's more than that. It's a matter. Okay, we will go on. But at any rate, okay, very good. So watch and be careful. Just experience. Be in the moment. That's what it's about. Wait and see. So it empowers now. That's what all of this eclipse is about. It was on March 29th at 6:58 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which I had said earlier, but that's Washington, D.C. The highlights, again, Mars is out of bounds. We're in the post-shadow period while we have the other two, Mercury and Venus, retrograde. I don't think I wrote that down, but they are, aren't they? Yes.
Yes.
Anyway, so the one aspect that the sun and moon are making is it's conjunct Mercury, which is no real surprise. It's so close to the sun. And it squared this particular chart at the MC.
Right. It doesn't have a lot of action, but March has been, packed with 2 eclipses and the spring equinox. And then tomorrow or today on the 30th, Neptune ingresses into Aries. So there's a lot going on for the end of March.
New worlds everywhere. Yes. So really action wants us to take something within and work with it, perhaps in the worlds that we're our career worlds. That's one idea of putting it, I guess. Continuing on this idea, first looking at it with oppositions and squares. And if you look at that stellium, that's a mixed stellium between Pisces and water, and Aries, which is fire. It goes all the way from Saturn, North Node, Venus, Neptune, Mercury to the ascendant. And it does even go into the sun and moon. There's that. And then, but this particular one would stop at Mercury. So I don't think I showed that inner circle of it. Or if I did, I moved it down too far. Darn. Okay. Well, anyway, it is opposite the South Node. So we have a lot-headed, high-profile agenda going forward, releasing what details and what structure for in our daily lives. It's changing our daily lives a great deal.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the one
thing
that,
and letting go.
Yeah. The one thing that really jumps out to me this chart is the Mars squaring Chiron. I think the Mars, when it's in Cancer, it's making emotional rationalizational decisions based on taking action or effort. And because it is out of bounds for a little while longer here, and Chiron is our wound, I think this is something very much to pay attention to, is to it's a good time to heal our emotions, but also to check our emotions about what are we emotionally rationalizing as we move forward in life. And so that jumped out to me. And then I might also say something about the nodes, because, we're all in this period of the Virgo, Ketu in Virgo, which is about, purging and improving this year in some aspect. And I think that also kind of represents what we see in the Aries here, some level of improvement in self. But we have to be careful because the Saturn, the malefic there is on the North Node, Rahu, the demon's head. So it's just really about being aware of where we're at in the space, and definitely a good time to work on ourselves. Definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I would say with that Mars square Chiron, it's like our emotions can be coming to the surface. It's like, try not to let it be a volcano, but don't ignore them either. It's like they need to be addressed, but, as well as you can, whether that's to be writing about what your emotions are, or to get a counselor, or, confide in a close friend or a trusted friend.
To me too, when I think of Saturn, and I'm coming from vibrational, it's really, and with all the retrograde that we're experiencing right now, it's what is essential, what in all of your life has meaning with that Venus, to lead your path forward as you want to become. There's a lot of introspection as we're mobilizing to move out, but it is pruning, a lot of pruning, and maybe restructuring. I know for myself, I've it's pretty much the name of the game. Yeah.
Well, that one Sabian symbol which you pointed out, Sue, about that the degrees of trying to hold on to one side, and because Saturn's all about the structure, right? It's about that how the soul is trying to establish itself, and I love that. It is about getting outside of that those limitations.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. It's not either or, it's and both. We're still going forward with Pisces. One way to think of it, with the North Node. A little bit of sacred geometry. This is a diagram to show Thor's hammer. It is an aspect that begins with a square, and there's a third point that's sesquiquadrate. That is 135 degrees, which happens to be a square of 90 degrees, and a half square can be a lot of action and movement. And like Liz says, packs a punch with focused intention. That's, I should say, via Liz Muschett.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. So here we are, and I love this little symbol here because that's Thor's hammer in there. It happens to be between this, emphasizing the South Node. I know that there's been thought, but I have read about focal points, but it, like Liz was saying, it's like a hammer that rocks back and forth and it moves constantly, but it is can be a, so, and the square is between
Pallas and Uranus.
Yeah,
Hygeia.
exactly.
Hygeia and Pallas.
Yeah, Hygeia and Pallas. So they're asteroids. No, it is. I should have. Yeah, I've got the arrows, but still my mind wandered. Thank you, Justin. So 12 degrees Taurus in Hygeia. Your health, what's pure to you, and your survival, you could say. I mean, there's so many ways of looking at Hygeia. It is of health. Asclepius' daughter, and who was the great medicine man. And Pallas Athena, who's the wisdom strategist, like Aries, or not Aries, like Mars, except that she isn't out there with her spirit of kill you. It's how to figure it out, how to get you.
Well, one of the things this brings up for me is, of course, a Thor's hammer is about a challenge because it's two sesquiquadrates, right, and a square. So it's a challenge here that we have, and one that we can overcome. And I think, because the South Node, Ketu, is the focal there with the sesquiquadrates to Pallas and Hygeia, I definitely think this is a really, again, there's a health component here, the health of something here. And as we're purging with that South Node or improving, I think Hygeia and Pallas here are also informing us of looking at patterns. Pallas is bringing in, looking at patterns. And then Hygeia, they're in Taurus about, maybe that's a little bit of a theme to pay attention to of Hygeia and Taurus as to how we can heal.
It would help, and I'll jump in, because Virgo, which is South Node, is so great at introspection and discerning it all. Please?
Right.
Well,
but then it's also learning. But I was also going to say really quickly that Virgo is learning to be less rigid, right? And let go of rigidity and lean into the Pisces. So, yeah.
It's a process. I know.
Yeah. And Liz, you're going to say something, Liz.
Well, it has big health components because Virgo is health too in Hygeia. So, making a plan to improve your health on some level, because if you keep going the way you are, there's going to be an issue perhaps. And a Thor's hammer requires attention. It's not something you can just ignore, because it's going to get louder and louder. And each point, there's squares and a half. So it's like there's a little bit of friction there, but it's, demanding attention.
But the good news is, really, I always think of this, well, the good news is, because I'm going, oh my gosh, the daily life we do have a structure to it. However loose a person might think, there's a routine, and those routines may support us and they may not. And I think that's a gift, that this, by introducing whatever it is, eating avocados or having a candle lit every day and praying to it, or pages that you write, or just going to sleep at the same hour. I mean, that's a challenge sometimes, but
Right, because it could be your physical health, your mental health. You're just isolating too much. I mean, it can be very simple, and just make some kind of adjustments, and I think you'll have, great results.
Goody. So the things that are flowing and connective, and in vibrational astrology, flowing is not just passive. Flowing is an active thing that one wants to flow, one wants to flow. They don't want it, and they will leave if it doesn't flow. So there's a lot of conversation about vibrational astrology has researched that, Linda Barry. But here we have a few, and then we'll get into some other patterns. South Node, again, is pretty active. Not only is it in that releasing business, but it's also trying to work. It's working with Pluto in a trine, saying, yes, I'll transform. Just help me out.
Well, this has been a little bit of a longer, this is just not today or tomorrow. This is a little bit of a longer triangulation, but Ketu is a disruptor. And so this is, I think, explains a lot of why we're going through what we are in the collective with the South Node, trining Pluto there.
It changes every day. Yes, exactly. Thank you for bringing us home.
And it's trying to Uranus at the same time. So Uranus just wants to make changes big time, but it's in Taurus. So lots of times the Taurus energy really slows that down.
It's resisted. It's like, this is Earth. I'm walking on it. I don't want it all disrupted. But it's about survival. And again, with vibrational astrology, if you'll bear here, is the moment is immediate now. So it's happening all the time. Yeah, it doesn't make it any less easy unless we realize it. These are happening now. Can't escape. Okay. We have a grand trine kite. That's a big energy. And again, it does have an asteroid of Juno, which is what we're married to, because she was the wife of Zeus, but it's also what we're aligned to. What are our partnerships? And with Mars, how we're asserting that. Go ahead.
And Venus is involved in that, the Saturn, North Node, Venus, and Neptune. So there's a big relationship component there, because Juno's about our commitments and our oaths. And Mars in Cancer is probably more about the structure of how do I, survive? How do I nurture my family? How do I take care of my family?
Be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely say I see Juno most involved with Mercury, Neptune, and Venus there, because it's a little bit of it's a 7-degree orb in a trine if it was going to Saturn or the North or Saturn. So I think it's more, pointing to that Venus. I don't think it's really trying to Saturn so much, but definitely to Venus and to Neptune and Mercury, and definitely an easy flow of energy of our emotions. And within our relationships with Juno and Mars there in Cancer, and what our desires are. So I think, again, this is a lot of this dynamic, churning emotional energy in the collective that's happening,
Good point, and thank you. My apology here, getting that big circle a little off, because I'm realizing, Venus and Mercury both retrograde, and by being trine in that flow to Mars, which is in its shadow path, it's a lot of evaluation that we're working with. And I wonder with Juno in Sagittarius, it might be about what our belief patterns. I think maybe you brought that up about patterns, but belief patterns and how every day might be changing, and how are we adjusting to that?
Yeah. Well, that's right. Sagittarius rules belief systems and religion and philosophy and politics. So there's definitely an indicator here in the chart with Juno in there.
Yeah. Well, we have one more sacred geometry. I love that word sacred and the two of them together. This point of Thales, which we've done before. Now, this is different. There's an opposition, but the third planet, and it's called the focal planet, is in this combination of a sextile, which is connections, and a trine that is weaving some kind of a flow. And so we have two of them. Did I ever finish? I didn't finish. Darn rats. Sorry about this on the right-hand side. It's been a little busy here. But it shows there, if you can look at the opposition and where the arrow is, that, so in other words, Juno to Uranus, and with this group, then we have over on the other side, the opposition between the nodes and a group with Uranus. Yeah. So
because it goes opposition, trine, and sextile. So if we go the other way, it's Uranus to Juno to that north node or Venus there. Yeah. But it's the completion of a pattern. So this was actually came up by Thales, who Miltris, who was an ancient astronomer, and he came up with this theorem, this completion of a pattern cycle that you know that awareness of the opposition, like you said, Sue, the awareness, and then the trining is the next step in that. It's almost like a story, and then the sextile is a completion of that, you know.
Yeah. So in other words, we have though it's a compatible, it's a sense of resolution using this.
Resolution, right. That's a good word, resolution.
Yeah. Yeah. So really the moments that are happening, and as we're evaluating and making what is essential is going to get us through thick and thin.
And I think what's interesting, if you go back to that, what's to note is we've been talking about the same planets this whole show, you know, which is the Ketu, the nodes, Juno, you know, Uranus, and that whole stellium. You know, I mean, it's all part of this big story.
And it's really, what are our relationships? They are changing on a consistent basis, deepening or else filtering out. I find that, like, we had an annual meeting, and honey.
And what were you going to go ahead? I was going to say, what did Liz think? But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sue.
No, I'm finished. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's becoming that awareness point, and then the trine. It's like now you can start communicating and working on it, and then, you know, it's that sextile. Really, you accomplish it.
Yeah, it's redefining. So much of this is re-experiencing, and with Aries, it's a constant process. Let's get rid of all these and just talk. Okay, it's a matter of realizing day to day just what it is that we have as a priority, what's on our table of what we want to accomplish, how that will mean to us. You know, it's a deep time. And then again, it's like, well, does this work? No, it doesn't work. Okay, well, how can I change that?
Right, because it's like, you know, the sun was just at 0 Aries like about 7-8 days ago, a week ago, or maybe a couple more days than that. But it's like, you know, initiating that 0 point, or the world point, the Aries point. It's known by so many things. You know, it's like a new beginning, and so many planets this year are transiting that point big time. You know, everything.
Where it's not just our story, we're sharing it with every other individual experiencing something. It's pretty.
And, you know, one other thing, you know, we mentioned early on in the beginning, we looked at, you know, the Emperor card and the Tarot. That is so apropos for right now, because really, as Neptune moves into Aries, it really is about a change of power structures around the world. This happens every 165 years. You know, Neptune is back into Aries. So this is really, it really kind of represents that Aries energy of that structure and authority, and we could actually use that, you know, kind of tap into that in our own lives to be empowered from a positive standpoint, you know.
Well, I see it. We just had a meeting, a HOA meeting, which I know many people might at this time, if that's part of your living existence. And it's so interesting to see the dynamics of the people in like a living testimony or laboratory. But for ourselves, okay, because we only have about a minute. I hear that here. What we will each say something that we offer. I offer people the courage just to realize that they're becoming and experience. Justin, Liz?
Go ahead, Liz.
Be patient with yourself and others. It's needed right now.
And I would just say step into your power. You can, pull up those bootstraps and move forward.
Write the story. There you go.
Aries.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Mars to the rescue, along with its compatriots, Venus and Mercury and the whole gang. We'll be back. This is Archetypal Symbols with Elizabeth Muschett and Justin Crockett-Elsie.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.